The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
The East Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop located at 20 Ropery Road, Gainsborough, or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Welcome back to East Lindsey again, everybody. Now, you can tell where I am today quite easily because, as you can see, there's a village sign right there. So let's have a little wander around this place. It's one we've mentioned before by name and is on the Lincolnshire Wolds. It's the only village this week, actually, that's on the Wolds. All the others are kind of just away from the Wolds, outside of the boundaries. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. This is the village and the parish, as you can see, of Fulletby. Fulletby, Foul Stream Village. Alright folks, today we're taking on a village that we've mentioned before by name, but so far we've not yet seen. When we were in Belchford a while back, we spoke at length about how it has a connection to another place at the top of that big hill that I drove down. That village is Fulletby, the only one of the 5 parishes I'm covering this week that's within the boundaries of the Lincolnshire Wolds. This is 3 miles northeast of Horncastle, 9 miles away from Louth, and 8 miles northwest of Spilsby. Fulletby was a village that the Romans knew well. This makes sense given that the Roman road, High Street, isn't far away from us. They occupied this part of Lincolnshire from the 1st century through to the 4th century AD. Roman funeral urns were dug up in the parish in 1849. They contained burned bone fragments and one contained a Roman coin. Although it looks like a substantial village on the map, a lot of its lanes are just that, lanes. The number of houses here is quite small. As such, Fulletby has a tiny population and is usually grouped together with Low Toynton, an equally small village, when it comes to admin. A lot of the houses that are here are fairly modern. Gone now are the mud and stud cottages, which used to be a key feature of Fulletby in the 1840s. Today, the oldest building that remains here is the church dedicated to St Andrew. It was rebuilt in 1705, but its tower fell down in 1799, and so a further rebuild was needed. Other than that, the only thing of note here today is a garage, but I bet you I can find a bit more. Let's see, shall we? Let's go walking. We begin this short walk around Fulletby outside a garage in the west of the village. This is one of the few businesses in Fulletby today. The village no longer has what it used to. Many businesses have long since disappeared from this place. That said, it does still have a clutch of small ones and a couple of working farms. And yes, farming has always been a key economic driver out here. In 1885, Kelly's Directory reported that the area's chief crops were wheat, barley, oats and turnips. Not a lot changes. Now, because Fulletby is on a dead straight lane, which I use to get to it from the A153, a lot of traffic just flies past that garage and through Fulletby to wherever it's going. Not many people actually explore this area, which I'm about to take you around now. There's not much to this. It looks like a substantial village on the map, but trust me, this really isn't. So let's have a walk around the village. Because there's not a lot of houses here, Fulletby is one of those villages that looks a lot bigger than it actually is. It's defined by a series of tight, narrow lanes, a lot of which don't have much on them. What few houses there are hidden from view in a lot of cases. The lanes are what's known as sunken, with their banks yielding a variety of wildflowers and grasses, all sheltered by a mature canopy of tall, thick trees or hedgerows. It's not a touristy village, but a lot of walkers do know it. The long-distance footpath, the Viking Way, runs through the village for a start. On top of that, Fulletby is a popular starting point for those who wish to take advantage of the panoramic views from the high points around here. We are, of course, on a hill. On a clear day, it's possible to see Lincoln Cathedral to the west, Boston Stump to the south, and the wind turbines in the North Sea and the cliffs of North Norfolk beyond to the southeast. Fulletby is a long-established village. It dates back to at least the Roman occupation of Britain and was probably around even before that. We have the Saxons and the Vikings to thank for the village's name, and there is a reference to Fulletby in the Domesday Book which states it was owned by the family of none other than Harold Godwinson. Fulletby sits on top of the Lincolnshire Wolds and is in fact one of the highest points in the southern reaches of these distinctive hills. Through the centuries, it's been well served by springs and wells, and the presence of water has been a key feature in how it's developed. Although not a lot of people live here now, at its most populous in the second half of the 19th century, the village had more than 350 residents in a largely self-sustaining community. It had all sorts of things to keep itself independent, including a brew house, a pub, a bakery, a slaughterhouse, and a general store. Fulletby School appears to have started in 1849, but the provision of a school teacher's house took another 10 years. The plans for it, dated 1858, were drawn up by Anthony Bellamy, as in he of Bellamy and Hardy of Lincoln. The building was constructed a year later and shows a date stone of 1859 in its south gable. Many small enterprises gradually faded as the 20th century progressed and motorised transport allowed easier access to Horncastle and Louth. Over time, the style and age of the buildings here has changed too. Older farm buildings and cottages have been replaced by new homes erected over the course of the 20th century. Now, all of the oldest surviving buildings are focused around St Andrew's Church. Wynn Cottage, for example, is one of them. That was the former village shop. It forms a group with Schoolhouse, Lizzie's Cottage and Blacksmith's Cottage, which all date from the middle of the 19th century. The name Wynn is quite relevant here too, by the way. The most famous Fulletby resident was Henry Wynn, known locally as the Grand Old Man of Lincolnshire. He was an acclaimed historian and poet who ran the village shop, established the village school, and served as a church warden and parish clerk for most of his long life. He lived to be 98. I'd imagine his fame is what led to this street being called Wynn Lane. By following this, we're coming towards Fulletby's centrepiece, the church. Well, as you probably gathered, it's a nice day today. The temperature is supposed to get up into about the 27-28 degree mark, and Fulletby is quite nice because it's shielded in quite a lot of leafy stuff, you know, trees, hedgerows, that sort of thing. So there's plenty of shade here. So even in the hot summer that we're currently experiencing, you can have a nice walk around this place and not get sunburnt, which is quite nice. I suppose if it is too warm, you can always take refuge in the church. And as you can see, we are at the church right now. It's open too. Let's go in and have a look. Grade 2 listed and dedicated to St Andrew, this church is built in the early English style. Fulletby has had a church for centuries, but the one that stands here today isn't the first. There are still some 14th century fragments in its stonework though, dating from its original construction. In 1705, the whole thing was rebuilt in green sandstone, an unusual commodity for the early 18th century. That perhaps contributed to the next major thing to happen here. Its tower fell down almost a century later in 1799. The church underwent another significant rebuilding in 1857 by Morland Fowler. This would add the chancel, the porch, the nave and a bellcote, making it appear largely Victorian in style. The tower, though, was never reconstructed. The church is now part of the Hemmingby group of the Horncastle Deanery and can seat around 120 people. The church remains consecrated with a service every 2 months and is available for general use by the village at other times. Records from the 1880s tell us that Fulletby once had more than just this though when it came to religious buildings. The village had both a Wesleyan and a primitive Methodist chapel at one time, but those have now disappeared. Okay, so we mentioned Henry Wynne on our walk around the village there, and here in the church there's a massive board which tells you all about him. Now I'm not going to read all of this because it's quite long, you know, TLDR and all that, but if you poke your head into this church you can read all about this guy. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just see if you can read this here. Feel free to pause the video so you can have a little read about the guy. This board also shows a few other things too. In this bottom right corner, there's some of the old mud and stud cottages that used to be here in Fulletby before they were torn down. There's a cart there, a horse and cart as well. And above that, there's a windmill. Now Fulletby had a windmill, which as you can see was dismantled in 1911, and it stood very close to where Fulletby Motors is now. So as you turn left onto Mill Lane, hence the name obviously, there's a little lane off to the left off Mill Lane behind Fulletby Motors, and that is where that windmill used to stand. As it happens, I completely forgot that to get back to the start here I have to pass that little lane where the mill once was, so I can show you firsthand. Here we go. There you go, that's where the mill used to be, down there, behind Fulletby Motors. And if we continue up Mill Lane and turn right, we'll get back to the start. Just before we reach the end, here's a word for this little field opposite the garage. Since 2021, this field, which runs to 2 acres size-wise, has been available to the village for general recreational use. It was generously purchased by the residents of Fulletby, and it's called the Fulletby Glebe Field. It's run by a charitable trust on behalf of all the residents. Village fetes are held here annually. And so we find ourselves at the end of the walk already, having made it around pretty much the entire village. There's not a lot you haven't seen. Tomorrow we're off to another one that's equally small, so don't blink, will you? You might miss something. See you later. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.